Hello, Laura back, and this time with L6M2 Learning Objective 3 question. So let's drill into it. A bigger question than normal, but once an organisation has identified a range of strategic options, it should review each of them in an attempt to avoid costly and serious mistakes. Explain using examples how the following criteria could be applied to evaluate strategic options that have been developed: suitability, acceptability, and feasibility. Okay, so this is a big question. We have to make sure that we address all of it. And as usual, we start with a definition. So again, there's lots to define here. You could define suitability, acceptability, feasibility, and so on. But I took the easy way out and defined strategy. And it's the direction and scope of an organization over the long term. Now, obviously, if you've already defined strategy on another question, then probably don't do that here and maybe try and define what you mean by suitability, acceptability, and feasibility. So this is actually a model that hopefully you're aware of because it is a learning outcome in this course and therefore can be asked as a question. Suitability, feasibility, and acceptability is what I refer to as the SFA framework. And Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington were the ones that identified the 3 key evaluation criteria. So what we're going to do for this answer is to drill into each one of them. There will be marks allocated, maybe 8 or 9 marks allocated for each one. And to get the maximum marks, you need to be writing pretty much the same amount of information in each area. I do think as well, it's great if you've got an example of a big change or something, such as, I don't know, a restructure. It could be to change from local sourcing to international or something along those lines. So you can run that example through each of the points that I'm going to take you through now. Okay, so when we're talking suitability, we're talking about, does the strategy fit the situation identified in the strategic appraisal? So in other words, is it suitable? Does it fit our needs? Is it what we require? And does it align with our organization's mission statement, our objectives, and our cultural values? Because if it doesn't, it's likely to fail. And what we can do is use the TOWS matrix here, which is the SWOT matrix backwards. So essentially it's looking at, does it capitalize on the organization's strengths? So is it making the most of our strengths? Does it overcome any of our identified weaknesses, such as maybe lack of innovation and so on? Does it neutralize any identified threats? And does it exploit any of our identified opportunities to give us the best advantage out there? And for each one of these, what we need you to do is to link back to your organization or an organization of your choice. For example, if you are talking about Ryanair becoming a luxury airline, then does that really align with the organization's mission and objectives of profit maximization? Will it capitalize on the organization's strengths? Well, probably not, because their strengths are the fact that they're able to, what are their strengths? They're able to basically provide a low-cost service so people can get to and from with the minimum amount of fuss, shall we say, and so on and so on. So you would need to link those. Acceptability is all about, does the strategy meet stakeholder expectations? So maybe stakeholders are expecting you to become more sustainable, when in reality, you're now opening a new production line or an airport, which is opening another runway, which will create more pollution and so on. Are the levels of risk and return favorable? We want it to be high return for low risk in an ideal world. That's not always possible. Will the stakeholders accept the strategy? Will they be on board? Will they resist or create problems for us? Is it going to be profitable enough to meet our stakeholder expectations? Will it make the money that we expect to? I worked for an organization where we did an IT refresh, shall we say, which cost a lot of money, but actually the benefits didn't arise that we expected. It didn't really speed up the process and so on. So actually just cost a lot of money and it didn't make any more money back. Will managers and employees follow the decision, or are they going to actively object to it? What's going to be the impact on customer satisfaction, loyalty, and demand, and so on? And what will be the impact on long-term supply chain relationships? Is it going to cause resentment, and so on? So once again, just like with suitability, I want you to run an example through this. It helps you expand these points and it helps bring to life what you're trying to say. And actually, with the example, it makes it a lot easier to write, I believe. So think of an example of a major change that an organization could or has made that you know of. Johnson, Scholes and Whittington actually drilled into acceptability and said that there were three major aspects: risk, returns, and reactions, the three R's. So risk, is the level of risk acceptable to the risk appetite of the stakeholders? So do they have a high risk appetite, or are they quite conservative with a low risk appetite and don't like these chances that you're taking? Returns, are the likely returns in line with expectations? And reactions, how they're going to react to the proposed strategy. And as long as you know that, you can then kind of try and counter that with your influencing strategies. As I said, the whole of acceptability, you need to link back to an organization of your choice. And finally, we have feasibility. Feasibility is whether the strategy is going to work in practice. And this can be measured in many different ways. I've just picked three here: practical, economic, and technical. Practically, do we have enough resources to do it? Do we have the time, the budget, the technology, the people, and so on? Will we be able to retain and sustain the required level of performance? So is this something that's sustainable over the long term? Will we be able to respond to any likely retaliation by competitors? And here you can use value analysis, where you're looking at your processes and putting them under a microscope and see if there's any waste there. And resource analysis, analysing exactly what you can do and what you need to do. Economically, are the financial resources available? Do we have the budget? Is there going to be a satisfactory return on investment for the level of risk? And to calculate these things, you can use break-even analysis and look at things like discounted cash flow and investment appraisal, financial ratios, any kind of risk analysis approaches. And then the final thing to look at with feasibility is technical feasibility. Can the strategy be implemented using available or accessible technology? Do you have the technology to do it? And again, you can use resource analysis to ascertain this. Just to reiterate, examples are key. The question asks for examples, so there will be marks allocated to ensure you link back to a major project for an organization of your choice, whether it's Virgin going into Virgin Hotels or cruises and so on, whether it's Dyson changing from being washing machines to hoovers to now hair straighteners and curlers and so on. So all of these things you can link back to an organization or your own organization with a restructure. Make it easy for yourself. You don't want to have to think too much in an exam when you're under stress. I really like this question, so I hope you found this useful. And thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you back on another constructive exam question soon. Bye for now.